All right. There we are. We are live. Welcome back, Michigan Brews. Where today we're speaking with he doesn't have his right name on there. I can't see that.
It's Dick Thunder.
Dick Thunder. Yeah.
It'd be Jeremy Gavin.
Jeremy Gavin. Speaking with him tonight in his homebrew club, trying to get his history and what they do over there. So yeah, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for watching, and let's go ahead and bring him in.
Right on.
Oh.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hello.
So we've got Jeremy from Michigan's premierest homebrew club, right? PrimeTime Brewers out of Grand Rapids.
The premierest.
Premier, yeah.
Premier.
There is only one premier.
So what are you drinking tonight?
I just refreshed into a Junipero gin from San Francisco, which is made by Anchor. Their Anchor distillery.
Really? I didn't know they distilled too.
That sounds neat.
Can you find that local around here?
Yeah, I got it. You can see the bottle here.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that on the shelf before.
It's really good. It's highly rated. I got it at Siciliano's here in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get it in elsewhere, I would imagine.
I'm sure Megabev down here carries it if anybody does.
I was gonna say I was at Megabev looking around. I've been into gins a lot lately, but I've been drinking Old Tom or barrel aged gins. And I like Liberator. Old Tom has been my go-to lately.
What is an Old Tom? School me.
So Old Tom is see, we're already off fucking topic.
How long into it? 2 minutes in. There we go.
Old Tom is more like historical gin before they came up with the London dry gin style of more of the juniper heavy, light, crisp, cheap gin. So Old Tom gin would be different botanicals. It's got juniper, but other shit in it. Maybe not as strong on the pine juniper flavor. And then they throw it in a barrel, and it just becomes. It's the first gin I drank on the rocks and really enjoyed it. So.
Oh, I'll have to find some.
So anyway, I'm slamming hams again. I don't have any homebrew. I do. I fucked a keg up, so I'm still not. I don't have the bar done in the basement. I don't have the kegerator going, so
Just a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is a pain in the ass. It's taking time.
At least it's in a glass.
Michigan homebrew.
Nice.
There you go.
I am bringing homebrew. This is my first brew that I've used. Oh shit! What are these hops called? Lupo Max? Are those the new ones that what Yakima Valley put out or something? It's they're supposed to have like something like 20-25% more. The alpha acid's a little bit higher. They're sort of like their answer to cryo hops, I guess.
Right on.
They're not. Apparently, it's a different method of creating the hops that's not cryo or something. I don't really know, but I got some citrus, some mosaic, and some sabro. I made a beer with all of it, and it's punchy. Like it's good. It tastes like a heavy double IPA with just like a ton of aroma.
Right on. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
When did you keg it up?
Last week, probably about a week ago now.
I was gonna say because I haven't had it yet, so I'm just.
Yeah, I owe you a creamsicle IPA from some shitty brewery that I can't remember the name of. I'm sure you're really excited for that, and I'll bring you some of this too.
Super happy, yeah.
Yeah.
What are you drinking, Jordan?
Larry's latest juicy IPA.
Oh, I gotta go down there and get some of that.
I had one of those this weekend. Oh,
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah, I got a 6-pack over the weekend, and I've been bouncing between that and an Oktoberfest. So that's what I picked.
Right on.
It is the season. Yeah.
I just picked up a bunch of Oktoberfest, different ones in case we do an Oktoberfest show, which means we're going to do an Oktoberfest show.
Yeah, we're
Next week or the week after. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. So, Jeremy, tell us about PrimeTime. How long have you guys been around up in Grand Rapids?
PrimeTime Brewers is let's see. I think the official start to the club was in the, like, I'm going to say 94, maybe a little earlier.
Wow.
That's when they changed the name and joined AHA. Before that, it was, roots going back to the late 70s. And then in the early 80s, they actually organized, but it was really more of just kind of a drinking group. They called themselves the Bozos, Brewers of Zymergetic, blah, blah. I don't know. It's time, and it was a terrible name. So in the early 90s, they joined AHA and changed the name to PrimeTime Brewers. There are only 3 presidents before me. I'm going into my 5th year here. So since the early 90s, I don't know, the presidents tend to be stuck in the position for a while.
Yeah. Hear that, David?
Okay. Before me, there's Eric Fouch, and he stepped down to start his own brewery here in Grand Rapids, starting up a brewing company. And then before him, it was the famous Jeff Carlson, 5-time cider maker of the year, blah, blah, blah.
He's still active, right? Like, feel like I still see that name pop up quite a bit.
Yeah, he just retired from Grand Valley 2 years ago, and since then he's still flooding every competition with his ciders and beers once in a while.
Nice.
And then there was Larry Simonson before me, who was kind of the official founder of PrimeTime, I suppose. As far as he was just the first guy that said, "Sure, I'll pick where we're going to do meetings." So that's really my responsibility is the whole club, but I actually really only just delegate and pick where we're meeting every month and topic conversation. So
that's yeah, though that's probably what David needs to shift into. But
yeah, well, I mean, like Eric Fouch before me, he was a lot more hands-on, and then I joined the club. Well, that would have been 2010. I joined into the club and then started getting active. And I'm an attorney, so I looked at the bylaws and said, "Hey, you don't have to be doing so much work. You can pass this on to your VPs and stuff." And so we're set up with a president, a VP, a treasurer, and a secretary. So, and right now, I've got a good team. Chad Zomerly is the secretary, keeps the notes, and is the voice of reason sometimes. And then there's Kathy Troxel is my VP. She just took the position this past January. And the VP's main responsibility really is organizing at the meetings. We do a monthly style competition each month. And so she organizes the judging and facilitates that.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of work.
Every month.
Yeah. Well, it's, it ranges from 6 to 12 beers at a meeting. We do that before the meeting. And depending on the style, it fluctuates. And then every month you get points for how well you did. And at the end of the year, you get most points, gets Brewer of the Year.
Cool.
So the VP is responsible for that. And then the treasurer he counts the money. And Greg Sunnyisle is our treasurer right now. And he's probably the best treasurer we've ever had because he's actually the CFO at Grand Valley, so he knows how to count. He can handle our hundreds of dollars.
Do you announce styles a couple months out?
Yeah, so usually November is our last monthly because in December we announce the winner and have a Christmas party. Cool. So at the November meeting, we will take suggestions for what styles people would like to see, and then it's up to the VP to actually schedule it. So starting in January, you have the whole year scheduled to brew 2. And we try to do, the ones that need more time, we put those later in the year.
No, that's cool. That's really cool. Like we had just started talking about coming up with a way to keep track of points for members that entered other competitions, and then blending in our own competitions. I think my position in the club is competition organizer, and I was targeting 3 to 4 a year. Not 12
Yeah.
or 11 or whatever you guys wind up doing.
Well, we've been doing this. It started because when they joined the AHA back then, the AHA had a monthly club competition.
Mm-hmm.
So each club the AHA would set out the schedule, and each club would then brew to it. And then, let's say September was pale ales, the clubs would do August as pale ales, and then whoever won, or it was up to the club to how they wanted to decide how they would do it. But in September, each club that wanted to participate would nominate a pale ale to send into the AHA club competition nationally. And there were significantly less clubs in the beginning of this. So PrimeTime just made it. We just made a competition the month before, and the winner of our monthly was the one that got sent to AHA.
Yeah, it's really cool idea.
Yeah.
And then AHA stopped doing that, probably 6 or so years ago, just because it got out of hand. There was just an explosion in the hobby and everything. There's no way for them to facilitate that anymore. So we had been in the habit of doing it for so long. They were like, well, it's fun, and it makes us brew to if you want to participate in it, it keeps you brewing, and it keeps you on to something. It's like, well, I got to have something for next month or whatever. And then it satisfies that competitiveness in a lot of the club members. And it fosters a lot of really good natured shit talk, which is some of my favorite.
Why I'm in a club, yeah.
Yeah. None of that happens between clubs or anything. Ever.
Yeah, we have our rivals, and especially in Grand Rapids here with the Mosquitoes, and that was really kind of why we picked the motto, the Premier Homebrew Club in West Michigan, because talking Muskegon, Ottawa, and Mosquitoes, and we're all friends. So
did that Premier Homebrew Club thing come after? When did that come about?
But
was that always part of the Homebrew Club name? Like the Premier?
No, that was probably 3 or 4 years ago we started. I had a banner made because I was talking shit with the president of Mosquitoes. I was like, well, we are the Premier Homebrew Club. And he's like, blah, 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 blah. So at the next big brew day in May that we would do, I made sure I had a banner made up that.
Of course. We don't, it's funny. We're actually a lot of us, I think, there's only Kalamazoo Libation Organization of Brewers Club and Keepers here in Kalamazoo anyway. And I think a lot of our members cross over both of them, but we really haven't gotten into the smack talk too much. I mean, we've had a couple little competitions against them, of which I think we've won all of them, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Now we're going to start talking some shit.
Yeah.
So, in case anybody from Club's watching, it's on. But yeah, where do you guys meet out of? What's your home base?
It's tricky right now because of COVID. We always would meet. That was part of my job, was picking each spot in the month. We try to go someplace different every time because we don't have a specific clubhouse. We have all of our sponsor breweries that are all, there's probably 85% of the pro brewers in Grand Rapids have come through PrimeTime at some time. And so there's a lot of connection there. And so we try to get around all our places, and we meet in the back rooms or breweries, or now that a lot of the breweries have expanded and they added on banquet hall, spaces, we'll meet in those places, etc. But yeah, we used to just between the tanks someplace.
Right.
And then we had for a few years a space of, I don't know if you remember, what do they call it? The Great American Brew Trail was a TV show locally made. They called it the Great American Brew Trail, but they never went outside of Michigan. They only did maybe a season of shows. And but anyway, the producer of that, he had a studio space that he would let us. We used for probably 3 years. That was really nice because we had a tap box all set up in there. So we'd organize a couple people would bring a keg or two to put on tap during the meeting.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
And it had a kitchen built in that they had in the studio to do cooking shows. So we had a kitchen, a really nice big kitchen that we could do food, or we'd do our Christmas party there, all that sort of stuff. fear and food. Fear.
Did you ever do like an indoor brew day there or anything?
What's that?
Did you ever do like an indoor brew day there or anything, like on the stove or?
No. Yeah, I mean, it didn't have a hood.
Oh yeah, okay, fair.
It was a
Just
TV.
for TV.
Yeah,
TV, so it had some stove, but they're like, yeah, we'd rather you not cook, but we had water and countertops, and we could heat something up real quick or whatever. But
Right.
it was a really fancy looking kitchen, but you step out of frame and then you're in a warehouse.
That's still pretty awesome though. Like we've moved around a bit, and it's I wish that we could have kind of a place like that where we could get more settled and do some things like that. Maybe someplace I could store the club bar. But,
Yeah,
So your garage.
all of PrimeTime's garbage is in my garage. So the booth,
Part
the
of presidential duties.
banners,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been doing during COVID then? Have you taken it virtual?
We did a lot. I think our first in person was in June. So for March, April, May, we were using Zoom. And then in June was our first tentative. We were in somebody's backyard. Weather was nice.
Yep.
So that's kind of what we've been doing is someone's driveway, their backyard, open spaces, outdoors.
Yep.
We have our next one is in October is Throwing Up a Brewing Company's patio, provided the weather holds, because October is when things kind of start to fall apart.
Yeah.
So we have some members that have large garages that we might continue to be in, and then we haven't asked, other than this time at Thornapple, to try to take up anyone's space at the brewery because of a lot of the restrictions with the restaurants, and
Yeah.
we don't want to take away from their business anyway.
Yep.
And now that's even more important. So
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think we're going to try to hit a new beer garden that's popping up in Kalamazoo at Presidential for our next one, weather permitting. But it's hard to say, let's go to One Well and take up, half of their seating, and then we're going to drink our own beer, right? It's just it's not cool.
yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the places we go to meet, we've got our favorites and people that have a connection with the club, because a lot of places don't want us bringing in our own stuff, which is understandable.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, with the places we do go to, we've got a good history with them,
That's cool.
and we make sure everybody at least buys one round from the bar. So,
Yeah, I think that's a given too. That's good. So what kind of things do you guys talk about in your meetings? Do you have a set agenda every month, or?
that's probably the hardest part for me about being the president of the club is I'm the one that has to come up with something to talk about, and I don't want to be the one talking the whole time. So I'll find. I mean, again, with COVID, it's been a lot more difficult, but I'll get speakers to come in. A couple times we've had Emily Geiger from Craft Cultures. Her family here is in West Michigan, but so she comes out from Keweenaw once in a while, and we'll coordinate with her, and she'll come in and talk to us about yeast propagation or harvesting wild yeast one time, that sort of stuff. Otherwise, if it's a new place for meeting, you do the tour and they talk about their spot. I try to get outside speakers that are credible in their field to come in. Otherwise, we've had a lot of times too with just, we have a lot of people in the club that are very talented and really into certain aspects and have their experts in an area, and give them an opportunity to explain to us. We got one time we had a member that just built this new all electric automated brew setup. So he talked about automation, electric brewing. Our last meeting, one of our members, his garage is all sorts of decked out with all the projectors and AV all over the place. And so he coupled with another one of our members that didn't want to come to the meeting, but he could virtual in, and he talked about recipe formulation with software and things. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. That's what we've been doing lately, that sort of thing. Kind of tapping more into the talent that is in our club.
One thing that I just thought about while you were saying that, and maybe that's something we should talk to a couple of the homebrew clubs about too, is especially the closer ones like you guys, maybe doing some like cross homebrew club like presentations or something like that. Get some fresh blood in with some fresh conversations or something like that. That could be fun.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. We've done that a couple times with Mosquitoes.
Oh, cool.
Just done a group. Like we went to Great Lakes Hops last fall, a hop yard in West Michigan that, I wanted to go out there. And then it was actually with Rivertown, another club here in town, and Mosquito. We were like, well, we should all go. Why don't, they've got plenty of space to house us all. So we just made it a group thing and talked about hops, and we went out and picked our own hops if you wanted them and stuff. So.
Yeah, right before COVID hit, I was going to go do it to the clubs around here. As like Brian and I wrote a presentation on brewing for competitions, and I was going to go do that for club and do it for South County, and then COVID hit and fucked all that shit and no more meetings. But yeah, like maybe we could set up something where we could send somebody over to do a presentation or have somebody come over if you guys have a good one. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
we
actually a member of ours, and I think he's just the retiring president of Mosquitoes. He's part of the curling club down there in Kazoo too.
Okay,
he's
awesome.
Trying for years to get, hey, let's do a primetime night down at the Wing Stadium and drink beer and slide stones or whatever they call it. Just he mentions that to most of the club, and 2 or 3 people were like, yeah, and the rest of them were like, do what?
I mean, if there's beer to be drank, I'll do kind of whatever.
Right? Yeah.
I've always wanted to go do curling.
I didn't even know.
I hear it's actually really fun to watch.
Yeah. It's big at Wings.
Didn't know that.
I think it's fun because you're drinking beer at the same time.
Yeah.
And standing on ice, what can go wrong?
Yeah. I think the catch with that though is that the stadium there, they don't let you bring your own beer in.
Oh,
their beer selection isn't fantastic. I mean, they have a few basic Bell's things, which is better than Hams, but
yeah.
Some nights they have don't they have like a cheap like hot dog and beer night or something like that?
I think
like
that's,
a Tuesday?
Do they do that at Wings? I know they do like Griffins up in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, the Griffins do Friday night. $1 beers, $1 dogs.
Dang.
You spend most of the time standing in line. You don't watch any hockey though.
Yep.
So there was, and I'm gonna fuck it up. And if David's watching or he'll watch later, he'll tell me about it. But they did. I want to say they did something like that at K Wings once, and there was a girl that didn't really understand what beer she should or shouldn't have been pouring, and it seems to me that he was telling me that he was drinking pint after pint after pint of KBS.
No,
just got fucking ripped, and I don't know if it was that night.
For like $2 a pint or something.
Yeah, it was either cheap or they were doing over pours or something. Like it was supposed to be 8-ounce pours, and he was getting like 22-ounce pours, or I don't remember. But
whoa.
I don't know that I want to do that. I mean, if you're gonna drink 12 beers for $12, PBR is a pretty good choice.
Right. I'm down with that. I couldn't. He said that he's like, I'm on my X number of KBS, and like, Jesus Christ, how'd you get through the first one? Let alone keep pounding them down.
Multiples. Yeah.
Well, I guess you get past the first 2 or 3, it goes down easier.
Comes up easier too.
Gross.
No room for hot dogs.
That's right.
Probably don't need it. There's so many calories in that beer.
The alcohol absorbs quickly. You're just puking up the liquid. Oh, it's time for another beer.
Yeah, I know. I'm just opening one too. So yeah, I was drinking that homebrew. Brandon mentioned in chat that he's drinking the Ferndale Project Solo Galaxy. They deliver to different parts of the state now. Different part like every day. Saturdays, I think, is their Kalamazoo day. And yeah, that Solo Galaxy is probably one of the better IPAs I've had in like a long time. It's like how people describe like New England IPAs is like very smooth and velvety and blah blah blah. Like that beer is like what that definition was like made from, I swear. It's very, very, very good, and just has like a nice like bite to it. It's not like a hot bite, but it's more of like a tart, like acidity bite. I don't know how to describe it, but
Right on.
it's super good. But I bring that up because I'm opening a Ferndale beer too. It's called My Precious.
I like the black can.
Yeah, black can, black lid. Their beers look really. Their cans are pretty. Double New England IPA, double dry hopped with Nelson, Raquel, and Kohatu. So some New Zealand hops.
Yeah. I know they don't deliver up here, but I got a delivery, a Hot Butcher. Thanks, Jake, if you're watching. Unwind Your Mind is, I'm going to crack into this. All they do, I don't know if Jeremy, if you ever had this Hot Butcher ship, but they just started distributing, I think, 2 of their varieties to Michigan. Keep your eye out for them. I forget which ones they are, but our friend, a keeper, actually moved to Chicago to run their canning line.
Okay,
So-
what's that? Say Hot Butcher? Is that what you said?
Hot Butcher, yeah.
Hot Butcher for the world.
They are doing just killing it with just crazy dippas. Super, super juicy New England's really good.
And like sometimes you run into that when breweries like kind of focus on a style like IPAs or something, where like a lot of their beers tend to come out tasting similarly, you know, even if the hops are different. I don't know. Hot Butcher must have a bunch of like different base like recipes and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
All
they're
their beers are very unique.
their doubles are all individual and all very, like this one is Mosaic, Motueka, Eldorado. Yeah, and but they're all individual. They're not similar at all. I will say they did do a what was it? Blackberry apricot graham cracker.
What'd you say it was called? Like All the Things or something like that?
Numerous different things.
Numerous different things.
And maybe it had one too many things in it. Mainly the graham cracker. It should not have had graham cracker in it, but it was still
maybe
good.
not enough. Maybe it needed sausage or something.
Maybe sausage. That's right. When in doubt, throw in kielbasa. We had so one of the things, I think the only time we really interact with PrimeTime down here is over at Homebrew Fest. You guys are kind of our neighbors across the way, and you guys always seem to put on a good show. I mean, I love the beers that you brought. Don't you guys have the lady with the cucumber kolsch?
Well, that was my beer.
That's your beer?
Yeah.
Well, you look kind of feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this last year, well, not this last year, but the last time we had a Michigan Homebrew Festival, that was the first time we actually like got into the theme and the costume and all that stuff. We had for years. Well, there's a history of PrimeTime Brewers and the Michigan Homebrew Festival, or the Michigan Beer Cup more specifically. The Michigan Beer Cup used to be the Michigan State Fair homebrew competition.
Right.
And that expanded into the Michigan Beer Cup. I'm pouring myself a rye whiskey. PrimeTime broke that competition because we had powerhouses like John Applegarth and Jeff Carlson and Larry Simonson and come on, I'm blanking on his name right now. Anyway, a bunch of guys that they would just pile into that competition. And the last year it happened, it was, I mean, I have, I'm not going to get it down right now. I have the Michigan Beer Cup up there that the only name on it is PrimeTime for 12 years running.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Because these guys just annihilated everybody. And the last year it ceased to happen because there was some bad blood between, what's the club? I can't remember, one of the East Side clubs, but because it came down to like multiple tiebreakers and it went in PrimeTime's favor. So they just stopped doing it and then it restarted again more recently. But since then, I mean, those guys that were brewing like crazy, they're, 70, 80 years old now, so they don't have quite the to do it so much anymore. But I mean, they're still active in the club and they're still making fantastic beers. They're just not sending 20 beers off to AHA or whatever. So, after that, when they started up the new Michigan Homebrew Festival to be the host for the beer cup, we would send a few guys over there. Would go for the day or whatever. I went there a couple times, and then it was when they moved to the new spot in Camp Agawam there. I was like, oh, this is going to be way better. So I went with my uncle, who's not even a member because he works third shift, so he couldn't come to meetings. It was just he and I. So really there was one primetime person. And a couple people came for the day, but I was camping it, and I had such a blast. I was selling it to the rest of the club for the whole rest of the year, and I got one more person to come. My VP came that time, Rick Brown, and he was like, holy shit, you're right. This is the best party ever. And so then we had 2 people, preaching to the club. So we got a couple more people to come the next year. So now we're up to like 4 or 5 people. And so we've been, the growth rate is really good, but we still only have like, 8 people there.
Yeah.
But last year we got like Kathy Troxel came, and Mama Kathy, we call her. She is really good at organizing and motivating people to get involved and do things. So, and we had, some more fresh blood as far as the festival goes that came, and we went big. And I really liked our theme last year. It was kind of a jackass golf, Caddyshack-ish sort of stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
did anybody end up getting the hole-in-one?
A couple people did, yeah. One of the guys that got it. So I asked Steve Siciliano, hey, do you have some swag we can take to give for prizes or whatever? Because we want to try to engage the crowd with our golf hole and stuff. And he gave me a box of 10,000 bottle caps. And another one was like a bag of black patent malt or something like that. These ridiculous things. So
yeah.
The first day I won, he's like, what do I win? And I bring this big box. I'm like, 10,000 bottle caps, buddy. What are you going to do? Not my problem. The next guy, a bag of grain. Great. What is it? It's black patent. So, I thought that was hilarious because, it's a prize. Yeah, what are you going to do with that 55 pounds of black patent malt? That's a lot of talk.
We got to find who won that. That's amazing.
So it was fun. That's what it was about. So, and this year we were all gearing up to do something fun again, but then the world ended, and we did end up going the Craft or Cass River or whoever it is. They invited us out. One of their members has a place in Hastings, and so he said, hey, why don't you want to bring some members out for the day to his property, and that was a good time. It was home MHF light.
Yeah. I know there were a couple of those that happened, and I'm really bummed that I didn't go to one of them. But your story is very similar to mine. I mean, that was I day tripped it out, came back and tried to tell Claude about this amazing party, and nobody listened to me. And then Keepers started up, and I joined Keepers. I came in and I'm like, there's this amazing fucking party over here we got to go to. And I think it took me a year to get, like Brian, it was you.
You had like 2, I think it was David and somebody else.
Oh, no, it was David and Matt was the first year. And then you and Jordan came in. Yep. But yeah, I got, 2 people to come with me. And then the next year I got like 6 people to come with me. And then last year the last year it was on, I should say, we actually had like 24 people show up. It was stupid. We were one of the biggest clubs, but we didn't really organize our tent very well, right? Like the party and the games and things like that. So that's what
the first couple of years you were like stuck back in a hole behind Salamander and Craft.
Well, the first year I was actually hauling a keg around by myself. Wow. And that was actually the year that we did the crab boil.
And I really was carrying a keg around with like a party tap.
Yeah, I showed up with a keg and a tap and my CO2, and I'm like, well, somebody will let me serve it, from where I'll fucking serve it myself, And then they wound up doing a crab boil, and I talked to Pat and Ben, and I'm like, hey, why don't I throw my keg down here next to the table? And so everybody had raspberry wheat beer with crab boil. It was the first keg kicked. God damn it, because it was sitting next to the table. And then the following year, we brought our first bar, and yeah, we were kind of stuck out in the woods. So, but now we're inside. Now next year we'll actually be 2 doors down. We're going to be in the corner next to Livingston Social.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like between the wall and Livingston's, they've got that structure. Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they'll have the structure, and we'll have the corner next to it. And
Okay.
we bonded pretty well with them guys. We're going to try to do something together, I think.
Oh yeah, they're great guys. Yeah, I talked a lot with Paul Phipps, and
Oh yeah, Paul's awesome.
because we're right next to them, so we're between Pontiac Brew Tribe and Livingston. And Livingston, Pontiac they like don't even talk to us. I don't know why. Maybe they're upset because they're PBT and we're PTB right next to them. To me, as an attorney, I hear PBT and I don't think of Pontiac Brew Tribe. I think of pre-breathalyzer test. But
Well, it's like we used to be next to Kraft,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody was like, "Are you guys part of Kraft?" I'm like, no, we're not part of Kraft.
yeah,
But anyway, we got a question, Brandon.
Yeah.
Let's jump into that. Brandon says, "What's your favorite style to brew?" And then, do you have any homebrew trends you love, hate?
style to brew. I go in phases. Let's see. I started brewing in 2003, and I was big into Belgian things, and then I don't know. I just got tired of it, and I was into IPAs and double IPAs and triple IPAs, arguably barley wines, those sort of things. What I really have been brewing for the last while now is I've really been chasing the perfect Pilsner, Bohemian or German style, or just light Helles lagers. I love an amber lager. Like Oktoberfest is my favorite time of year because Martzen and Fest beers. Where I'm actually hosting our 11th year. This Saturday is our 11th annual Oktoberfest party that started as a just a shit talk between my uncle and my cousin and a couple friends about, well, I make a good Martzen. Well, my Martzen's better than yours. Oh, yeah. Well, why don't we bring our Martzens and, make a competition out of it. And it started with just, 25 people. And now last year was our 10th year. We had 175 people in my backyard.
Holy
Quite a
cow.
party.
The whole German food spread brought by people, and we limit the competition to 12 beers. You have to bring a whole 5-gallon keg. Has to be a German style. They randomly number them. Everybody tastes them. They cast their vote. That sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We got beer games, beer pong, barrel roll, Stein grab, all that sort of stuff. This year, because of COVID, we're scaling it back significantly, but we're still going to do it. We're cutting out the food and a lot less of the hands-on stuff. No one's allowed in the house or in the garage, so it'll still be a good time. But
Do you still have openings for the beers that are going to go on tap?
we have 11 right now, so we have one spot open. If you're interested, you got to contact me, and then we'll tap it if you drop the keg off, or if you come with the keg before 5 o'clock.
No, I got the invitation, and I wanted to come, but I think my wife's watching. I think I've got yard work to do. So, but it's just funny. I do happen to have a keg of Pilsner right now.
Yeah.
But is it a German Pilsner?
It's a Pilsner.
Of course it is.
Right.
I mean, we have everything in this competition from Goses to Schwarzbiers, Amber Lagers, Doppelbocks. The ones that do the best are the Martzen Fest beer style because they're malty, really good, easy to drink. And if it's a hot year, a Hefeweizen or a Gose will do well. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And actually, this is the first year my wife is in the competition. She's brewed 3 beers in her life this last year. So,
What'd you brew?
she made a Gose.
Sweet.
But that's top secret shit because it's supposed to be a blind tasting night.
Oh,
But if you're drinking through a field of amber and light lagers and suddenly there's a Gose, it's going to stand out. So,
yeah, it is. No, I just checked. I checked my hops. I didn't know my hops were actually Canadian, so I guess it's not a real German lager.
Well, just don't tell anyone. Tell them it's German.
Yeah.
That's a
Now,
secret too.
we have the people that come to this. I mean, there's a broad range from real serious beer nerds to professional brewers to people like, yeah, I like to drink beer. I'll come hang out. And it's surprising. One year we had somebody bring something that was, to those of us that know beer, like those are clearly American hops. And we had a lot of people in the crowd that they're Bud Light drinkers. They're like, there's something wrong with this beer. It doesn't taste like the other ones. So the guy was trying to prove a point. He's like, no, the people that come to this, they're not going to know the difference. We're like, okay. So he snuck one in and told us it was German.
Funny.
So my favorite things to brew right now are lagers. I'm bringing an amber lager to the thing. I haven't been. I used to, up until about 2 years ago, I tried to brew once a week, 5 gallons. My interest has shifted into further processed malt-based beverages.
How would you go through 5 gallons of beer?
I have a lot of friends.
Yeah. That's pretty much.
My dad, my brothers, my friends. Everywhere I went, I'd bring a growler of beer with me. And
yeah, it used to be a lot easier than it is right now. COVID, and you just can't give beer away quite as easily right now. Not as many big get-togethers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I made a everybody, they're having a party, like, yeah, just bring a 6-pack to share or whatever. So I made a 6-pack holder of growlers. So it looked like a big 6-pack holder, but it held 3
You said bring
gallons.
a 6-pack, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When you filled that thing up, though, it was pretty fucking
Heavy
heavy.
shit.
I was gonna say, did it come with? Did it have wheels on one end or? Shit.
I had a pretty thick old leather belt as a handle, and
I think Brandon asked too. Are there any like homebrew trends that you love, hate right now?
homebrew trends. See, I don't know. I know, like, maybe I'm even a little bit behind some of the trends because I don't really brew to trends anymore. I guess.
Yeah.
To sound like a snob, I'm a mature brewer.
Sure.
If that even means anything. I have personally feel like I've brewed almost every style under the sun, and I know what I like to make and what I like to drink, and I also know what I can make well with my water and on my system and my process. Sometimes it's just like, oh, it's so much work to try to do that, to try to adjust the water for this or try to do that or whatever. So it's like sometimes I just want to enjoy sitting in the garage and making an easy beer. So
Yeah, I get that.
Yep.
so, but I know, like, the Kvik stuff, that stuff's pretty interesting. What is it Lutra? The Norwegian yeast that's supposed to ferment really clean like a lager.
That's a pretty good job.
That in Oslo. Did you just use Lucha or something, Jason?
I've never used it.
Okay.
That Pilsner that I was just gonna hawk over to you was a fucking Lucha Pilsner.
No.
Well, I'm pretty sure someone's bringing a Lutra Pilsner to the party next week.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that everything is a Norwegian yeast.
Yeah, that's a fad. That fad annoyed me probably last year when there were breweries that were like, throwing out Vosk Vikes left and right, and it's like, I don't know if they thought that because you can abuse that yeast that you should abuse that yeast. I don't know. I just found some pretty foul shit out there on the market, but
Even Bell's had one that I just didn't care for.
I made a further processed malt-based beverage that was 100% unhopped Kvik yeasted product. That my uncle was trying to see how much he could abuse it and just cranking up these huge gravities and like keeping them 110 degrees or whatever. And
Sure.
it made alcohol, and I said, "Well, I'll use it." It's pretty tasty.
How high did the yeast take it?
I don't know. I didn't look at his notes. He would start talking about it, and I'd be like, "All right, whatever." You lost me, dude. But like with the Lutra, I've had a few things from people that have made it. I haven't tried it because I'm kind of a purist when it comes to lager. And it's like, yeah, all right, that's passable, but it's not like a real traditional cold, long process.
Yeah, that's the thing. I did it. It was I wanted a Pilsner, and I didn't have the, because of construction on my house, I just didn't have the equipment set up to lager that I actually have now. So I tried it, but then at the last minute, I decided to switch to Brambling Cross for my hops, just to see what would happen if the black currant flavor would come through, and it did. So it is a really clean Pilsner, but it's slightly fruity, but there's no fruit in it. So
it's from the hop, probably, right?
Yeah, it's all just from the hop. But it's just really weird. I enjoy it. I just don't.
What you said you say you used? Was that the Lutra?
I used Lutra and Brambling Cross and made a
Only
Pilsner.
type I've used is Oslo, and I've done it once. I didn't like it.
Oslo is a weird one. Oslo and Voss, I think, are not as good.
I made a Maibach with Oslo, and it was like fine, but it was like missing like a character, like that clean lager character. Like it was clean, but it was missing that. I don't know how to describe it. That slight sulfur, that is just not unpleasant. But it's
Yeah,
like
that's how I felt with Oslo, is that there is. I honestly think I may have even done like a second. I can't recall what type of beer I made from it because it was a while ago. But yeah, there was just something missing from it. It just left me desiring.
One other trick I think I really can't stand. I don't know. This is one of those, people love to hate the hazy IPAs.
Yeah.
So
Really?
My entire career, it's been like I strive to make a crystal clear beer, and now it's supposed to be hazy. I mean, I understand the process that goes into it. It just is hazy the way you make it, just like Hefeweizen. They don't try to make Hefeweizens hazy; they just are. Wheat beers are hazy.
Sure.
So if you're making a really juicy hop, you're dry hopping during primary fermentation. I understand it's going to turn out hazy, but I hate these people that are like, "Oh, this is a terrible New England IPA. It's not hazy."
Sure.
Like, I think it's fucking great because it's clear and it tastes nice and juicy and hoppy.
I enjoy New England's and the mouthfeel of the pillowy, like, New England IPAs. I like crisp, clean IPAs, but I don't care. I brewed what I thought was supposed to be in New England, and it came out clear and it was fine. And but vice versa, I've also had, I don't know, regular IPAs that are kind of cloudy from homebrewers that just fuck something up, and they're all right too.
And I don't like beers that are really heavy on the dry hop anyway, because I get some hop astringency and vegetal flavors and grassy out of it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I enjoy hop flavor, but sometimes people just go too far with it. It's not my taste. Some people love it. That's great. I don't.
They're kind of filling too. Like, honestly, like you sit there and it's just, you can't drink it quite as easily as, a German Pilsner or something like that. Like, it kind of takes some effort to get through a whole glass sometimes. And, by the time you finish it, it's like all warmed up and shit and lost in carbonation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you just get an 8-ounce pour of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you never find them in anything less than a 16-ounce can. So, and then they're, $7-8 a piece.
Well, the massive amount of hops they have to dump into this.
Yeah, no doubt. And Drew's asking too, speaking of trends, yeah. Have you ever brewed with Philly Sour, which is pretty new? Like, I know some people haven't heard of it yet.
Philly Sour, is that like a Philly cheesesteak?
Yeah. No,
It's,
It's brand new.
Yeah, probably been on the market for a couple months now. It's a Lachantia species yeast, so it's a lactic acid producing yeast. So, like, with your wife's Goza, did she like kettle sour?
Yeah, I've been using. I don't recognize the name Shancia, but I got some wine yeast stuff. I can't remember what it's called. The packaging is all in French, so I have no idea what it actually says. It's a wine yeast that produces lactic acid. So I will,
that's cool.
with the Goses, and I've done some Berliners with that, where I'll pitch that and give it 3 or 4 days, and then I dump in the rest, some 05 or something like that to finish it out.
That's awesome.
And it gives a really nice lactic character, like as if you did a kettle sour or even added a lactic culture or whatever, without having to worry about the temp and all that shit dealing with lactic acid or lactobacillus. Because before that, I would do a lot of sour mashing to do Goses or Berliners or whatever kettle sour sorts of. Not kettle sours, but because I would just sour mash. I'd mash in at 120 and let it sit there in the hot garage in the summertime for 2 or 3 days and come back and finish it up, just like a regular beer. And I know like some people that I know that are real particular about, using the right culture or whatever, this or that, or you got to do this, you got to get just this temperature or whatever. It's like, I'm a bit more of a board to board type brewer as well as a cook. So, hey, I do this and it works, and that's
steered in the right direction, and
Don't you ever get any, butyric acid or blah blah blah? I'm like, well, I don't know. It tastes pretty damn good. Probably. I don't know.
I'm there with you, man. I know I give Brian shit about it. He's more of the scientific process guy, and I'm more of the creative cook, I think, and I just do whatever feels good.
I've been trying to shift this last year, so I've been doing a lot of mixed fermentations and stuff like that. I've been trying to do one a month to kind of get a pipeline going, and it's sort of a mind shift in that, like, instead of knowing what I'm gonna get, I kind of have to just steer, the yeast in a particular direction, and what comes of it comes of it.
I'm just a really lazy brewer, and like I don't want to be like people talk about the brew bug or whatever those things. Like, look, I can see exactly right now on my phone what my fermentation is doing. I'll get back to it in 7 days. We'll see what comes out of it. With process, it's like the reason I did sour mashing is because I could mash in and walk away for 3 days and then come back and just continue brewing.
That's Brandon's not doing sour mashing, but Brandon's a guy that watches a lot. He's a member of our club, and he does the overnight mashes a lot. And I'm like, that just blew my mind. Like, I can just set this shit up and go to bed. Like, what the fuck? Why am I not doing this?
The less I have to move things around, the better.
Yeah.
I have done. I've been experimenting a lot because I like lagers with the high pressure ferments for lagers. Ferment warm under pressure. So like I know like a lot of the stuff I researched, they're talking 1 or 2 bar or something like that for pressure ferment. Well, I'll hit that sucker with like 35 psa and walk away for 3 days, and then I have a passably clean lager. It gets better the longer it sits in the kegerator, but you can turn around a light lager in 2 or 3 weeks. That's why not? Because again, I'm a lazy brewer.
I hear you. Oh, so back to PrimeTime. Do you guys do anything in the community, or any like Big Drew days or brewing demos or any of that shit?
We always have participated heavily in the Big Brew Day. Cincinnati's does the one, and they hosted at Trail Point out there in Allendale. We did it. They used to be down in Calder Plaza in downtown for a little while, and then the city officials just got to be a bit too officious, so it wasn't worth the effort anymore. So Big Brew Day is always a really big thing, and then the Cincinnati's Homebrew Club is a big deal that we participate in and judge a lot of that. And then there's MHF, which we're trying to get more into. We get involved with the Pro-Am here in Grand Rapids. I'm on the Pro-Am committee, which that kind of fell apart this year. But our Christmas party every year, we've been doing a Christmas party since the 80s. In December, we don't have a meeting, we just have a Christmas party. So that has developed into where we have we've always had an auction where we go around and we collect swag and donations from our sponsor breweries and homebrew shops and whatever. beer bars, etc., that sort of stuff. And then we do an auction style, sell it all off, and that was how we've always funded the club. Well, as the club has grown, we make more money off that than we could ever use. I mean, we really only need $500 to run the club for a whole year,
Right.
and that, I think, being pretty luxurious. Well, we're bringing in $3,000 or $4,000 some years on this. We've been taking in at least half of it. We just pick a round number that's more than half, and that goes to a charity of our choice. So we work with the Gilda's Club. 2 years running now. It's been Food Bank, Feeding America, West Michigan, that we got hooked up with from the guys that own Mitten Brewing, Max Weiler and Chris Andrus.
How many members do you guys have? We missed that earlier.
Actual paid members, I think our roster right now is only like 45. But we have a lot of hanger-ons and people that like to come to meetings and just, it's fine. If people don't want to commit, that's cool. It's just, I'm like, people ask me, well, why should I actually pay for the membership? I'm like, because it's $20 for a year. I mean, that's cheap. And well, what do I get for that? You get 10% off at local homebrew supply shops. Well, I get that through AHA. I'm like, yeah, but AHA is more than $20 a month.
Or a year,
I can legally drink
per year, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, 45, I think. 40, 45 is what our paid members are right now. And enough that, we get the AHA, we apply for the AHA insurance every year and stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
There was like this year, the treasurer was like, hey, if we can get up to 75% of our membership to be AHA members, AHA will cover the insurance. I'm like, our insurance is like what, $200 for the year? And it's what, 45? Last I looked, it was $45 to join the AHA. I don't know. I was an AHA member one time. Just got roped into it. So it's just, to try to get everybody to go in one direction sometimes is difficult, and then to try to convince people that, hey, you need to spend more money to join another club so that our club doesn't have to spend money, but we make more money every year than we need anyway. Yeah,
awesome.
It's a hard sell.
Yeah, we played the AHA game. We get the free insurance and stuff, but we're not nearly as big. I think we're probably half that for paid members.
I think we've got up somewhat high. Definitely not this year, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought we were in the 20s, but you'd have to talk to Patrick about that.
Historically, we're like 100 or so paid members.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely nowhere near that. That's awesome. Are you guys the biggest club in Grand Rapids?
Honestly, by paid members, I never said this out loud because this is a major admission. Brewskitos might have us by paid members, but I don't know. The thing is, there's a lot of crossover between the clubs anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before I was the prez, I was a member of 4 different homebrew clubs just because I just wanted to go around and meet people and talk about beer and share beer. Then when I became president, I was like, all right, I need to focus here. And then again, it's like, well, I can still show up at a Brewskitos or a mob meeting and be treated as if I am a club member. I can't enter the competitions, or there's perks I don't get access to, but that's not what I'm there for anyway.
Sure. So what do you got? Any big plans for the club this year? You said you've got, what's your next style competition?
Ooh, I should have this memorized. It's on the webpage.
We'll do that. Let me throw your webpage out on the, we should have done that earlier. I'll throw your webpage out on our post. So if anybody does stumble across this, they can find you guys quickly. So PrimeTime Brewers will be in the comments.
How do you guys do the judging for those competitions?
We basically have 2 ways. There's what we call the beauty pageant, or there's BJCP style. So if we're real specific, like last week was our September meeting. That was APAs, so that was it. Whatever. I don't have it memorized because I haven't had for that.
Mm-hmm.
What is that, like 13B or something? That's probably wrong. But a real specific style like that, we'll sit down with a panel of 3 judges, and we will go through a score sheet and give them a BJCP style judging. Next month, now remembering now, is best of cellar beer. So it's a barn door, anything between 1 and 23 or whatever the. Let's see here. I'm looking at the webpage now. Man, somebody needs to update this thing. Yeah, I haven't updated that yet. We had to cancel our beer and food pairing because we couldn't think of a safe way to do that with COVID. We've always done a beer and food pairing dinner once a year. It's best to cellar. So any beer you bring in, you declare a style, and then we just, you don't bring a label or anything on it, and people just go along and taste, and everybody gets a scorecard, and they just write down their top 3, 1, 2, 3 picks, and then the VP will tally them up and we'll pick a winner that way. So we do a few of those. When it's something like that, that's real broad, like we do a best of cellar ciders, best of cellar meads, or best of cellar beers. Or like one time we did New England IPAs, and New England IPA didn't really have BJCP style.
Right.
Sure.
So there was no guideline to go by. We've always been kind of champion or pushing the BJCP styles because part of the point of the club is that if you want to be a competitive brewer, it's the job of the club to equip you to be able to compete in competitions. But be that through learning from other members or sharing ideas, learning how to judge and how to taste beers per the BJCP guidelines. That was something I was working on as COVID hit. Was March, we were putting together a BJCP class with some of the other clubs in the area to try to get people together, and then James Lewis is a guy locally here that came out of Chicago that's a BJCP judge and has taught the classes before. He was going to work us through like a 6-month class to prepare us to take those that are interested to take the level 1 and level 2 BJCP tests. And that was literally like the meeting was the Wednesday and the world ended that Friday before that. So that I had all the beer bought to go through a couple styles to teach people how it's going to go. And I drank that beer myself because it was in my fridge. So
that's a really cool idea, though. I like how you phrase that.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry.
Just got it.
There's my COVID. This new microphone, I don't have a mute button on it.
Oh no!
You gotta set that like mic mute software. I had that for a little while for this thing, so I didn't have to lean down and press on my audio.
I have another headset, but Brian bitches about how it sounds, so I'm using a different.
This one does sound good. This one sounds good.
Now you get.
You should get the same headset that Brian had, or you could have ganked your daughter's condenser mic.
No, she took that to college with her.
Oh.
But anyway, I like how you were saying.
my headset.
I like how you talked about the club's responsibility to educate the members like that, and I wish we could do a BJCP type thing. I don't know of anybody in the area that can instruct like that, though.
If we're able to join, hit us up, and we'd probably definitely take part.
Well, yeah,
I know a room will be limited once that gets going again.
If we ever manage to get the class together, you guys are more than welcome to join. We were kind of the driving force behind it. The PrimeTime was, but I look at homebrew clubs like churches, Christian churches. They all generally believe the same thing, but they fight about stupid details.
Very valid.
Presbyterian, Episcopalian, Catholic, I don't give a shit what you are. We all talk about beer. So the inter-club stuff, it's just fun, the friendly rivalry between the clubs. But when it comes down to something like, hey, we want to educate all of the brewers in the area that want to try to compete how to enter competition and do well. I, as a beer judge myself, I'm not a certified judge. I don't care to take the test to get that. I was going to do it this time to, lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear all the time of people complaining about, well, what do you mean, the way it's judged? People, we've all entered competitions, right? You can bitch about your score sheets all day long. But to put yourself in the shoes of the judge and understand how that beer was judged, and it is 100% blind if it's done right.
Yeah.
to bitch about your scores is, well, you need to understand the way it's judged.
Yep.
To be able to understand how to enter a beer. A lot of entering a beer competition, because of beer competition, you're taking something that's inherently subjective and trying to make it objective. A lot of the game of entering a beer competition is picking your style right.
Right.
So I'll get comments from people that like, I'll write on the score sheet, like, yeah, you entered the APA category, but this tastes like an American wheat beer. Did you add wheat to this? I didn't add any fucking wheat to it. I'm like, I'm sorry. I wasn't personal. I didn't know that you didn't. I was just telling you what I tasted. Maybe, if you're tasting a beer, you're like, yeah, I made this to be an APA, but you know what? It does taste more like an American wheat beer. So enter it in the wheat beer category.
Yep.
Yep.
In the presentation we do that's one of the things is don't enter the beer that you brewed. Don't enter the category for the beer that you brewed.
Enter the beer that you made.
Enter the beer that you made. Yeah, thanks.
What it tastes like.
Yeah, almost every beer I've ever entered a competition, I've sat there for weeks and thought about, where do I really want to put this?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a Doppelbock, but you know what? It might be more of a Maibach, or it might be more of a whatever.
So I think it's something we all struggle with. I used to have a couple of good resources that I could kind of go over to their house, and they had good palates and good experience, and be like, here, what's this? What do you think of that? And they tell me, and then I could be like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Now I just have Brian and Jordan, and we try to do that in the club. That's what I think we're trying to do now is, bring your beer in and we'll taste it and tell you and give you that feedback.
Yeah, before all this started, we were starting to highlight a couple of beers a month. Yeah,
trying to. I'd read up on another. Actually, it was a Brewlosophy episode where there was a club on that talked about like a mechanics corner, where every meeting they had a couple of guys that were really good at tasting, or they were certified judges or whatever, and you bring them your beer and they taste your beer and tell you, what category, what you could do wrong, or you ferment too hot. Yeah, so I'd like to do something like that in our club, but COVID fucked it all. So.
Everything. Another big part of entering a beer in a competition too, or asking for any sort of feedback about a beer, which I see a lot of times some people seem to be lacking, is be willing to accept some bad news. Exactly. If somebody says your APA tastes like a wheat beer and you get pissed about it, maybe you should rethink why you're brewing beer.
My favorite one is, don't bring me your Doppelbock and ask me if I think it's a Doppelbock. And then when I tell you, no, I don't think it's a Doppelbock, you get pissed off at me because I told you what you asked me about. Like,
exactly.
Jesus Christ, right?
Yeah, exactly.
During my
honest opinion, don't be upset when you get it.
Yeah,
exactly.
When I first started entering competitions, one of the things I was really bad at was saving beer that I entered. So I got my feedback. I could like taste it and be like, well, yeah, they're right. Like, yeah, but I think that sometimes that's really helpful. Like if you can taste the beer while reading the feedback and be like, oh, so that's what they mean.
Yeah,
that can be helpful.
It's one of my favorite things to get feedback and be like, I know exactly what you're fucking talking about. Like, or yes, I when they can peg that, maybe I didn't hit my temperature or, something, and then I can go back to my notes and be like, yeah, I fucked that up that day, or I did miss that step, or whatever. It's cool. But yeah, you gotta have an open mind.
What you have to realize too is that beer that maybe you're pouring on tap and it's like, damn, this is spot on for whatever style. Once you put it in a bottle and it sits there for a few weeks or months, wherever it may be, it might not be exactly. I mean, you're introducing a lot of variables there that can change the taste of that beer.
Yeah.
And every beer tastes best, with some exceptions, right off the tap.
Sure. Provided
your taps are clean. That's another education point that we try to press in the club too, is clean your shit.
I was a Siciliano's one. I have a raspberry stout that's done well, and first round national medals and gold medals at beer cup and shit like that. And I brewed the batch that I thought was the best. I'm like, this one's good. And Siciliano's was the first comp, and I sent it in, or I bottled it all up and sent it in. And I was traveling, and I get my score from Steve, and I'm on a plane or something, and I fucking, like, he scored me like a 26 or something. So I emailed him right back, and I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. What the fuck, really? Because I couldn't see the sheets, and He's like, fucking thing blew up in my hand, man. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? So as soon as my plane landed, I like got home, ran down to the basement, pulled a couple out, popped them. They all blew up. Like, I brewed this beer 100 times, not 100 times, but damn, I brewed it a lot, and I've never had, secondary fermentation take off in the bottle like that.
The bottle must have been bad or something. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, there's so many variables.
Right. But you're right. It was perfect. It was perfect on the keg when I was serving it, but even in the bottle for the month and a half or whatever, it was a bomb. And I'm glad, because I got that feedback from Steve before I had to, I think, send that batch off to the final table or something or whatever that year. Like, saved my ass, really, because I was able to rebrew.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I don't see any other questions in chat. Jeremy, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Really appreciate it. I put your club link in our comments. So if anybody stumbles on this, they want to get in touch with PrimeTime Brewers, links down below. Check them out if you're in the Grand Rapids area. Don't bother with the other clubs, right? The inferior clubs. Go with the premier club.
Up yours, Radimer.
Other than that, guys, it's been another good night drinking online with you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good night, guys.